going on, guys? So we have the Inspire 2. It's literally day 2. Officially, day 1 was yesterday. I got 1 flight in. Barely knew what I was doing because it took a lot to get this thing kind of prepped. But day 2, I got a little better grasp of it. I got some bugs on it from flying earlier. But we have a much larger drone. I'm going to give you my input so far on the Inspire 2 day 2 with the drone. It is a very cool drone. I mean, obviously, look at this thing. It's freaking badass. So there's that obvious given, and everyone does take notice. Not that that really matters, but it is a cool conversation piece. Someone commented it's like having a little puppy with you. I don't know about that. This is kind of like having a little alien puppy with you or something, but this thing literally costs more than my Honda Civic that I bought used. So it's a big investment for me. I don't know if people realize that, but it's a big investment for anyone. It's a $10,000 drone, essentially, by the time you have multiple batteries, the licenses, the case, all the stuff that goes along with it. I got the Crystal Sky Ultra. This thing goes for $1,200. I'm grateful I got it from someone for about $700. This guy goes onto the standard remote. I didn't get the other remote, and the Cedence or whatever it's called. And this one kind of goes with the bracket. So I'm going to show you really quickly. Whoop. You essentially put this guy right over here, and that latches on, and it feels really good, honestly. So there's this, but like Greg was saying from Pilot Institute, I was kind of joking around with him. As I said, I had an issue today when I had a no-fly zone, but I got LANC authorization with my 107. But I didn't have a Wi-Fi hotspot on my phone because I don't have it on my cellular plan. And he's like, if you have a $10,000 drone, you better get a darn hotspot. So that is probably true, but it was one of the things that I don't like using something like this because I don't have actual Wi-Fi or a cellular connection, or like a smart controller, you don't have cellular connection. So you do have to go off a hotspot in order to get authorization or transfer photos or something. But this display is really killer. I mean, it's 2000 nit. And it's a 7.85 inch display, and it has a nice balance to it. I really do like flying with it so far, so there's that. This is the controller. It's really a pretty quick setup time. I mean, you got these guys. Oh, let me put this down somewhere. I'll put it down right over here. We have the props, which are pretty massive, and I kind of now know how to take everything off and put together really quickly. So these guys are probably about a foot long, and we got 4 of them. It breaks down by just this little clip. You twist and pull up. So 1 prop, 2 prop, they're marked red and white. So that, as you see, is pretty easy to break down right away. And I didn't even look at the footage I got, but on this X5S camera, which I got, it has an Olympus. I got the Olympus 45 mil, and with the Micro 2/3 equivalent, it's a 90 mil. This 90 mil compression, I didn't even look at the footage yet. I'm going to put some in the beginning of this edit, and you let me know what you think, but it looked really cool. To have that kind of compression and really zoom in with the drone is super unique. I've never had that experience. I have the ProRes license for this, but I don't have the SSD drive yet. I got to shell out another $1,300, and I figured I'd go and fly it first and kind of test this thing out and see what I was feeling before I invest that much more. Now the thing is big. So this thing is big. The case is even bigger. There's some pros and cons to it. It forced me to clean my trunk out because in my Honda Civic, I was throwing this case. It barely even fit in my back seat. So it does slide in nicely when I emptied my trunk out. So it did get me to clean my car a little bit. The case is actually pretty darn large. I'll put a little clip in to show you. It was actually in my car and then out on location, but it's a very large case. I can kind of manhandle it with 2 hands. It's not that horrible. The wheels save you because once you get it on the ground, you can put up a little handle and wheel it around. So the case, though, is very big. It's a massive case. So as you guys probably know, when you go and fly a normal drone, you have a little case. Whoop, let me pull this guy out. Like this. This is, I don't even know what's in this case. What is in this case? This is when you know you have too many drones. Okay, so this is my Mavic 2 zoom. So we got a zoom in here, and this is a nice normal case. Now, when we have the other case, let me go and turn this around. I'm going to show you guys. So we got this case right here, which is pretty darn large. And I'm going to take this little bag off and take some of these guys off, and I'll show you. But it's a big case. But again, this thing in the case is a lot to carry around. So you're lugging around a lot of gear, and it's expensive, and it takes a lot more to set up. Not a lot more, but just pulling that case out is really pretty almost intense, because you have such a large case that you're pulling out on a location. So say you're going somewhere nice to capture sunset, there's people around, you're pulling out this hardcore Pelican case. This is a GPC case for my example, and then you pull out this beast, and it's freaking large props and pretty aggressive sounding. I mean, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, it's a conversation piece and you keep it positive. But again, it's a lot more menacing, I guess, or a lot more intense than, say, a little Mavic, 2 Pro or Air 2S or Mini, obviously. Mini is obviously like total opposite. I mean, let me see the Mini in this little case right here. Super easy. But let's just take a look at this for fun. So essentially, the Inspire 2 eats Mini 2s for like little Scooby snacks. I mean, this is pretty funny, but look at that. Very cool little drone. Let's see if we can get him to balance. We can. But Mini 2, Inspire 2. Pretty darn crazy how different these two drones are. But this is so easy to get up in the air and get some quick shots, but you are not going to get a 90 mil compression. You're not going to get ProRes cinema DNG footage. You just aren't going to get the quality that you would get with the beast like this. But it does come at a cost. Obviously, price-wise, I mean, this thing is right around $7,000. It's probably going to be around $10,000 by the time I have the case, the Crystal Sky, the SSD drive, I mean, the refresh, blah, 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 extra batteries. I'm definitely going to need more batteries if I decide to hang on to this. I'm still kind of indecisive whether or not I should keep it. I mean, there's that part of it. I was talking to a couple people, and, like Billy Kyle, I was commenting on one of his videos, and people, this is still running Lightbridge. So this is essentially a 4-year-old drone. We're on OcuSync 3.0 right now. OcuSync 2.0 is amazing. OcuSync 3.0 with the Air 2S is amazing. This is Lightbridge, and this is definitely not amazing. It's good, and it's great for visual line of sight. But what I'm realizing with this drone, it's essentially a drone where you go and get your shot, and then you kind of bounce and move around to the next location, next spot. You're not cruising this thing super far, getting crazy shots, and then, you know what I mean? It's just not that drone. It's a drone where it's not going to go super far. I guess you can get some kind of antennas or range extender, so I'm going to look into that if I decide to hold on to this drone. But it's just something that definitely is noticeable. This thing breaks up and starts losing connection pretty darn quick. So I'm not used to Lightbridge anymore. I'm definitely familiar with OcuSync 2.0, and most of my drones are that, or 3.0. So this is old technology, and to spend this much money on older technology, even though it's still in a league of its own with being able to change lenses and get different compressions and all kinds of cool high quality footage like ProRes and Cinema DNG, it does kind of stink that it is such old technology. But again, nothing's really touching it. To me, what I think DJI should do is come out with the mid-range pro kind of drone. Something in the $3,000 to $5,000 range, to me, would be amazing. I would spend $3,500 for a kick-ass drone all day long if I knew it was a next level step up from, say, a Mavic 2 Pro or something like that. Say the Mavic 3 Pro came out, and then we had another option for a more like pro type drone that was maybe $3,500 or $4,500 or something under the $5,000 range. I really think DJI should come up with something that is under an Inspire kind of drone and above something like a Mavic 2, Mavic 3 Pro, whatever they're going to come out with next. So that's my wish list. from DJI. I really think that's a little missing link in the world because it really does kind of go from $1,000 to $2,000 drones, and then it skyrockets to like $10,000 and more with the matrices and all the thermal cameras and that kind of thing, depending on what you're going to get into. Right now we have this guy over here. This is what the X5S comes in, the Zenmuse. I don't have the actual lens here. It comes with, I think it's a 15 mil. And I put on the 45. The 45, again, is really cool. So having the different lens options really opens up an entire new world to flying a drone. It just is so cool to be able to get that tight compression on objects and buildings and all kinds of different things. And this drone flies really well. So I don't know. I mean, let me get this guy out of the way somewhere. Oh, here, I'll keep it right there. But we got the batteries over here. You depress this and the batteries will pop out. So these batteries, they're redundant, 2 to fly at one time. So we have both of these batteries and they're roughly, I think, like 180 a piece. So I'd probably have to get a minimum of 2 more of these batteries, meaning 2 more sets, which is 4 batteries total. These 2 batteries are done charging right now. So I got a job tomorrow, for example, which is going to require not necessarily this drone, but it's a potential client that owns some car washes. And if I really want to impress and wow them, guess what? This thing's going to impress and wow anyone. It really is visually that cool. I mean, with this thing raising and lowering the arms and just the way it flies and just has a real intense presence, this makes people know you're not effing around. So there is that psychology. So when I go and fly this for a job tomorrow, it's not a big deal. I'm going to probably make $200, but it doesn't matter. I'm just helping out a friend, and I'm just going to use this. Not normally would I take this drone out for $200, but because I'm learning and trying to just see how it would be on a job and doing a little test run with it, I'm going to fly it and just see how it actually fares. But again, this thing can easily make me money. I know that for a fact. So again, you have this hub for these batteries. You got the Crystal Sky battery. You have these big props. You got the camera. You got the lenses. You got the big case. You got a lot of stuff to kind of lug around. At the same time, it's not that crazy. Really, you should have another remote, and you could have another dual operator setup so I can actually have someone fly like me. I'd probably be the one flying, and then you have someone operate the camera, and that way you can rotate the camera 360 degrees while you're flying because these legs will lift up. So there's definitely a lot of potential in this drone, and there's a lot to figure out. But again, from what most of us are used to flying, like the Autel drone, for example, my Evo 2 Pro 6K, you have a little case, and in this Evo 2 Pro case, here, I'll show you. I got all these cases. But this Evo 2 Pro case, to me, was big until I got the Inspire 2 case. So that GPC case is pretty darn massive. And again, it is a lot to lug around. I mean, it kind of bums me out when I have to actually lug that thing down my stairs at my apartment and put it into my trunk and then wheel it out. It is a whole different mindset to fly because you have a bigger setup involved. And again, when you're going somewhere and you're pulling out this big trunk and pulling this thing out and then putting it together, people think you're up to a lot more than you may actually be. But as you see, I mean, this thing has carbon fiber arms. The motors are super intense and just well built. I mean, it definitely is a pro drone. And the case that this thing comes in is really nice. It's almost like buying an iMac Pro or something as opposed to a regular iMac. So overall, it's a very pro experience. It does come at a cost. It does come at a kind of inconvenience of having to lug so much around. It's not obviously such a big, quick pull out of your bag and unfold and just put in the air. You have to take a little bit more time, but I actually kind of get into it. The FPV thing, for example, I won an FPV, I returned one FPV, I sold the FPV when I won it and actually put that money towards this drone. So I did sacrifice and kind of put aside and saved to get this thing. But for me, setting this thing up and putting it into the air is more fun than getting into the FPV thing. That's just me. So I enjoy this challenge of this drone and the setup and what's involved to get kind of a cool compression and different kind of focal lengths. I think it's more of a photographic cinematographer type drone, of course, than an FPV, which is more for flying and fun and zipping around. This thing, you really know you're gonna get some killer footage. So let me know what you guys think of the footage in the opening. I don't even know what it looks like. I'm hoping it looks kind of killer. So it's just the first little glimpse of trying this lens. I literally just got this lens in the mail today. I got this in the mail, meaning the Inspire 2 yesterday. So it took all day to just get all the batteries charged and to kind of figure out what was going on. I mean, there's a lot to kind of, never used a Crystal Sky, never used an Inspire 2, never used an X5S camera. I don't know what's beeping. I got to figure that out. So this is the Autel hub. That's not beeping, but a lot more unassuming. This is a lot more serious. It's more solid, the battery. So everything on this drone is just bigger and hardcore and more heavy duty. And it's kind of cool. I mean, again, the legs lifting up and going down, I don't think will ever get old. And again, the Inspire 2, really there's nothing in the category. I mean, the Mavic 2 Pro, eventually the Mavic 3 Pro is going to drop, but there's nothing really competing with an Inspire 2, even though it has light bridge and even though it's outdated and 4 years old, which kind of stinks because again, you're spending so much money. I wish this thing wasn't as out of date, but there really isn't anything competing with it. So there's that too. It's just hard to know what to do, whether I keep this thing or whether I return it, but I think I should sit with it, fly it, use it, and get really creative with it. I think I'm gonna go on a little road trip. I may possibly move, I'm not sure. I'm looking at Knoxville, Tennessee as an option. I think I may take a road trip and just throw this thing in my trunk and buy maybe 4 more batteries for it, get my SSD drive so I can shoot ProRes and maybe just go and drive and just stop and get killer shots and just do a little fun creative road trip, bring you guys on the journey, possibly do a little vlogging of it and just kind of shoot on location. But I think this is a drone that I can get into way more than I could with the DJI FPV, for example, or FPV in general. Again, just wanted to give you a little glimpse of the Inspire 2 Day 2, and I don't know, I mean, it's very freaking cool. There's a lot to figure out on this drone. But anyway, guys, that's it for now. We'll see what happens with this drone. There's a lot to learn. It's a big learning curve. It's a big drone. Everything about this thing is pretty massive. But again, I kind of enjoy the geeky part of the setting up of this drone. It kind of is like what I used to do on the photo jobs and the photography jobs. I used to bring iMacs and Mac Pro towers and work as a digital tech for a lot of the top photographers and videographers and driving their technology. That was a big part of my job. That was a big part of my career and my life when we first kind of transitioned to the digital realm with photography. So I was kind of doing that as my profession. And I'm just used to carrying stuff around in trunks and cases. But if I can find a way to get this thing in and out of the case and into my trunk and kind of do a quick kind of workflow and get the hang of it, and it won't be that big of a deal, I think I'll be a lot happier. And once I start producing killer content and getting really nice clips and footage with ProRes and with different kind of focal lengths and just really stoking myself out, that will be what will give me peace of mind. And again, making money. So I have a hopeful potential job coming up. I'm hoping it's going to be probably $4,000 to $6,000 to start. So if that happens, that will essentially pay for this drone, and that will really give me some peace of mind, recouping some of this money, because again, this was a huge purchase for me. I don't normally spend this kind of money, let alone on a drone, but I know it is an investment in my career. It's another tool in my tool bag, and it definitely will make me more money than an FPV, for example, would make me. So with that being said, guys, aloha, peace, and I will see you soon. And let me know what you think of the drone. Let me know if you think I should keep it, return it, sit with it, fly it, whatever, review it. Let me know. Hit the thumbs up button if you found any of this interesting. And aloha, guys. Peace.